Welcome to The Leading Edge, Developing Officers for Command. I'm Senior Master Sergeant Eugene Christ from your 130th Public Affairs. Now let's get to the content.
Good morning and welcome. So this is actually the second to last iteration of the Leading Edge program and podcast. Ironically, it's my first one new to the role here as the Deputy Wing Commander, so I appreciate you guys coming in. Today we're going to hear from the IG office, learn a little bit more about what they do, how they support the command and the airmen of the wing. You know, I'll tell you, as a graduated squadron and group commander, there was a time when people would look at the IG office as like the black hat organization. So, and I'm talking a long time ago, because they are, you know, they do see like basically two avenues or two specific parts of their program, right? So they do inspection, compliance, support commanders inspections program. That part of it is one arm, and then the other arm is the complaints piece, which probably takes up a much smaller amount of what they do. But what I was trying to allude to is that, you know, we used to have, and I'm talking years ago, kind of this feeling about the IG that they were black hats or the bad guys, and that's not really the case. And I think when you listen to Lieutenant Colonel Board today, and all of you as prospective commanders, and of course Major Willard, brand new to command. So yeah, brand new tomorrow, right? Yeah. What you're going to find out is the IG and the team that comprises the IG is really here to assist commanders and airmen, and they do that in a variety of ways. And I'm not going to steal Chad's thunder here, but once you kind of get over that and embrace that mindset, there's really a lot of value in understanding what they do, understanding what they can help you do as a commander, and how they can better serve your airmen, which is what we're all here for, right? We all want to be able to serve our airmen so that our airmen can focus on being good at their AFSCs and being ready to go out the door should they be called on. And so the IG shop is really an integral piece to making that happen. All right, so without any further discussion, I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Colonel Board. Go ahead.
Thanks, sir, for the introduction. I appreciate it. Like Colonel Switzer said, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Chad Board, and I've been the Wing IG for close to a year now, and it's been a pretty good experience. I'd like to welcome you to the IG portion of the pre-command course, and now, without further ado, we'll move forward here. There we go. Here's the current list of staff members in the 130th IG office, and it's broken out by what each of our roles are, and then also our statuses, so you know who to be able to go to during the week or on a drill weekend. But also on each of your bulletin boards in your work centers, it has the same information as well. So. In regard to the inspection program, we're going to talk about the regulations that drive what we have to do as IG and you all as commanders. Discuss the commander's inspection program and what we as the IG do to help, and what you as future commanders will actually be responsible for. The parts of the unit self-assessment program and the resources for commanders as far as their USAP and commander's inspection program goes. And the IG is actually broken into two sections, inspections and the complaint resolutions program. But we probably spend about 85% of our time working on the inspection side of the house. And first, we'll go over the inspections program. Here we go. Here's the regulations, that we and the guidance that we use to administer the commander's inspection program, and everything available on the 130th IG SharePoint, which is on the Wing SharePoint, or you can, ask us for it, and we'll be more than happy to provide it to you. The Air Force inspection system, is designed to be an integrated system that we use on behalf of the Secretary of the Air Force, Chief of Staff of the Air Force, and the commanders for all of our IG activities. And the purpose of inspecting is to improve our processes, maintain readiness, and evaluate our organization by conducting surveys, exercises, and evaluations. And for the inspections types, first is the oversight inspections. But AFIA conducts those on all the MAGCOMs, so that's nothing that we'll ever see at our level. And next is the unit effectiveness inspections. These are conducted at the wing level by the AMC IG. And historically, readiness hasn't been a big part of that, But a couple years ago, Chief of Staff of the Air Force asked the MAGCOM commanders if they were ready. And kind of in a nutshell, they replied with, ready for what? And that wasn't exactly the answer he was looking for. So since then, there's been a significant change. And then you all know what the world holds for us right now. So now there's a pretty significant focus on the readiness side of the house. And then all the Air Force wings have commanders inspection programs as a critical part of their unit self-assessment. And according to AFI 1-2, you'll hear me refer to that AFI quite a bit throughout this presentation. Commanders have the legal authority and responsibility to inspect their subordinate units. And this is where the Wing IG office comes into play. We help the squadron commanders and the wing commander with these processes. And then lastly is the unit self-assessment program. This is below the wing level and includes commander's intent, mission focus, internal processes. And each squadron has to develop their own checklists and not rely solely on MIC-T, because ultimately we need to be in compliance with all of our AFIs, and MIC-T is definitely not all-encompassing. Now we'll go in a little more detail. The unit effectiveness inspection cycle is 24 to 60 months for the Guard, and it includes a continual evaluation and an AMC IG visit known as a capstone. And we actually just had one of those in August, and the unit did very well on it. The continual evaluation piece of the cycle will include gathering the AMC commander's intent, risk-based sampling, functional staff inputs, and then they'll also look through IGEMs to see what the IG's done, for their inspections. And then now wings are required to do a combat readiness exercise, or a CRE, every 2 years, so they'll take a look at that. And then about 90 to 180 days before the UE capstone, the AMC IG is going to reach out to a FIA, and then they're going to establish a UEI survey. And then they're going to take that and provide it to all the airmen in the wing for their arrival. And what they'll do is gather candid, confidential beliefs, and thoughts from all of your airmen before they get here. And then for the capstone, they'll focus on validating the wing commander's inspection program and evaluate the wing on the 4 major graded areas, or MGAs. And the on-site visits look at evaluations, audits, exercises, and they'll look at pretty much everything we've done through the entire UEI cycle up to that point, and then they'll provide the wing commander with a report at the end of the UE capstone. And whatever you as future commanders do in regard to your USAPs, it should include the responsibilities outlined in AFI 1-2. And it's imperative that you do conduct frequent inspections on your subordinate units, to make sure that, they're doing everything that they need to do. What is the commander's inspection program? Whether we find it, the AMC IG finds it, or you find it, the purpose of the commander's inspection program is to provide commanders information to assess risk, identify areas of improvement, and to try to precisely focus where you need to put your resources. Our commander's inspection program and the point of your USAP managers is twofold. One is to maintain a ready force, and 2 is to detect non-compliance and to ensure unit effectiveness. Also, you'll see a recurring theme on mission readiness throughout this presentation. And it's pretty much the Wing Plans Office, the Wing IG Office, Emergency Management, Security Forces, Fire Department, all working jointly to do exercises. The Wings Plans Office is primarily responsible for planning and executing the exercises with assistance from the squadrons. And then the IG's responsibility is to evaluate the Wing Plans Office and the squadrons on how they do this. The main point here is the commander's inspection program is the most important part of the force inspection system. And your USAP is actually the most important part of commander's inspection program. This is what helps you all make data-driven decisions and accept known risk. So now we'll go in a little more detail on what each person's roles are. Ultimately, the wing commander is responsible for implementing the commander's inspection program that validates your all squadron's USAPs. He also chairs the commander's inspection management board and the dashboard meetings, in addition to the other directives outlined here. The IG office basically executes the wing commander's inspection program to validate the requirements that are all listed in AFI 1-2. Most of what we do is validate each squadron's USAPs and then also help each squadron with their developing the USAPs. The key takeaway here is it's critical you appoint USAP managers who have corporate knowledge, to run a comprehensive USAP. Also, it would behoove you to pick well-seasoned wing inspection team members who are SMEs in the areas that they're evaluating as well. USAP managers should remain familiar with their unit's business rules and provide vector checks to ensure their sections stay focused on executing USAP assessment plans. And then they should also, help their commanders focus on their CIMB dashboards to gather information to try to help them make data-driven decisions. And as previously mentioned, the wing inspection team members should be SMEs in their career fields, remain current with their WIT training, and actually provide useful reports to you all as commanders. And then lastly, every airman should provide support as needed. There's a lot of things they can do. From providing documentation for MCT to helping process waivers. There's a lot of things that they can do and should really stay involved. How does the USAP fit into the Commander's Inspection Program? The Commander's Inspection Program consists of many elements, and the pie chart shows a few examples of those and how they fit into the Wings inspection program and then ultimately the Air Force's inspection system. The key takeaway here is MCT is definitely not an all-encompassing database that captures everything squadron's responsible for. MCT is oftentimes just the questions that maybe a particular FAM might think is particularly important, so that's why they add it to MCT. So you still have to dive in all your AFIs and make sure that you're adhering to all of them. And if not, then you submit waivers to accept risk. Major graded areas represent key processes and are what everyone should be focusing on, in their USAPs. These are the procedures and requirements that are based on directives AFI 1-2. They're also included in AFIS 90-201. So when we're doing inspections, whether it's UEs, exercises, or whatever, what we're always looking at as the IG are these 4 MGAs, and also the sub-MGAs that are listed off to the side. So now I'll touch on each of those. First, executing the mission. That includes readiness, daily operations, and installation preparedness. Managing resources. So obviously in the Air Force, we operate, in a resource-constrained environment. So this becomes important to us. It includes adequacy, which actually goes to higher headquarters. So if your wing's not getting sufficient resources, you can actually do a write-up, list a deficiency under adequacy, and it'll get up-channeled and maybe some attention that you need. And then stewardship, that just deals with the resources that we actually do get on base. Improving the unit includes strategic alignment, process operations, commander's inspection program, and making data-driven decisions. And then lastly, leading the people. That includes communication, discipline, training, development, and quality of life engagement. How to develop your USAP. The USAP should look at how the unit is performing with respect to the 4 major graded areas. Identify areas of risk and non-compliance to consist to much more than just MCT like I had mentioned before. As an example, all the documents highlighted on this slide can serve as supporting documentation for your USAP, but it's definitely not all inclusive either. Next, we'll discuss your all specific roles and responsibilities with IGMs and MCT. Here are the links to both those sites, but we have them available on our SharePoint as well. And you all and your USAPs should actually have accounts for this already. And something else, you should have accounts for IGMC, which is on the classified side as well. And if you need assistance with any of that stuff, just reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to help. First, for IGMs, you'll be responsible for assigning corrective action OPR POCs to deficiencies, identify root causes and deficiency codes, submit corrective action plans, and verify implementation of the corrective action plans. But once again, if you have questions with this, which everybody typically does, feel free to reach out to us and we'll help you out with the database. And for MCT, the responsibility is to assign permissions to members in your unit, create local checklists for MCT, and then assign assessors and validators. And then you also need to make sure that the assessors and validators don't occupy the same role, because that'd be a conflict of interest. Run compliance reports, and then also review self-assessment communicators in the database. But once again, if you have questions, don't hesitate, just reach out to us. We're more than happy to help you out any way that we can. These 5 questions are a great starting point for y'all to ask yourselves when you're developing your USAPs. Personally, I think questions 3 and 5 are particularly important. You need to be able to explain how you're in compliance, and you need to be able to communicate with your commanders and airmen alike. There have been multiple units who have failed their capstones simply because of squadron and group commanders not being informed and kept aware of risk by their airmen and USAPs. So it's really important that you keep lines of communication open.
Hey, Chad, can I jump
Yes, sir.
in there?
Absolutely.
So a couple of things. You guys have probably already been to this course at least a few times, right? So what's the 1-2? Yeah, it's commander's responsibilities. How long is that document, Major? Yeah, it's not a very long document. It's pretty simple, right? And it focuses primarily on the 4 major graded areas. And a lot of times when we say that, we think, oh, these are the things that I'm being graded on. And you are, in terms of if you're having an inspection or you're doing a self-assessment or what have you. But it's really it's fundamentally what your responsibilities are as a commander. So even though we use the term major graded areas, what we're really talking about is these are the 4 areas where I should be focusing my time, effort, and energy as a commander. And then, everything that Chad has talked about up until this point tells you how do you build your compliance and your self-assessment in order to support you in that effort. And then also, how can your subordinate officers, your subordinate enlisted personnel, and your team at large help you do that as well. I love what he said about the MICT, because probably, I'm going to date myself here quite a bit, but a couple things. One, probably 10, 12 years ago when I was a chief of tactics, I couldn't even spell MICT. And, but my boss is like, hey, you're responsible for making sure I'm responsible. And what Chad said about MICT is like, it's not all inclusive, and it's 100% not. What it does do is it starts to get you looking at a bunch of different areas, right? Because you have to go in there, you have to answer these questions and find out, are we in compliance with whatever this portion of the regulatory guidance is? And all of those communicators come out of some AFI or some prescribed directive or what have you. In the old days, whenever all these publications were on paper, when you were going in to do something like that, what would happen is you'd start reading before, reading after, cross-referencing different regs, trying to find conflict. Well, the downside of all these things being available electronically is you kind of miss out on those inadvertent stumbles onto other information that you might not be doing. So that's one of the things you can talk to your USAPs about, the people that manage your checklist, and say, hey, it's just a start. It's not all inclusive. And then this stuff is absolutely key. And I know Chad's going to take you deeper into the next slide where you start talking about data and all that. But I think one of the things that we struggle with as officers and commanders sometimes is how do we message things? And when you look at the 1-2 and you look at the responsibilities command, and self-assessment is certainly one of them, you want to be careful not to message it as a must-do in terms of, well, we need to do this because it's compliance. Well, yes, it is compliance, but it's also helping us do what we're required to do as commanders and execute a mission, which is ultimately everybody's goal. So just wanted to chime in on that piece.
This is really good points. And, we work with all the USAPs a lot. And, different ones have different ways of going through the regulations. And it's pretty neat hearing, the different processes. But, no need in reinventing the wheel. Meet with some of those others and get best management practice on how to go through everything as efficiently as possible. And, make sure that you don't miss those things in the AFIs. And also in 1-2 that Major Willard has, it's funny, it doesn't call them MGAs, the 4 MGAs. However, whenever you take a look at it, if you haven't already, you'll see exactly what we're talking about, with those 4, those 4 points. So definitely take a look at those. Now, further broken out, this slide takes several areas that feed your USAP. Initially, MCT, once again served as the commander's USAP, but things are a little different now. And as future commanders, you'll discover that's evolved into several aspects, and the majority of which you're all already accomplishing and may not even know it. What is risk-based sampling? This is taking the data that you gather, such as information on the previous slide, to help you make informed decisions and prioritize self-inspection activities. Another goal for your USAPs is to not just focus on singularly missed items that that might have happened, but to really try to focus on negative and positive trend. And then also your USAP should be able to use these databases to help ascertain meaningful data to pinpoint those negative trends. Take a look at this quote here at the top of the slide. The numbers mentioned here in General Rock's quote are a couple years old. Sure, they've changed some. However, it points out the massive number of requirements that we have, and it's not anywhere near possible being able to do it all. So please use the waiver system, to help accept risk and minimize some of those requirements that you have to do. For example, in our office, to be in the IG office as an enlisted member, you have to be a tech sergeant or above, or if you're an officer, you have to be a captain or above. But we had a really sharp tech sergeant. He got a commission while he was in our office, and he became a second lieutenant. Well, he was still a tremendous asset to our office, so we spent a whopping 10 minutes, cranked out a waiver, and got it approved, and we got to keep that asset in our office until he left to go to flight school. So it's a really simple process, and I really encourage y'all to do it. As previously mentioned, we don't have nearly enough time or resources to meet every requirement in our regulations, so use this process to accept some risk that you deem necessary. And also complete a waiver request if you're not completely meeting the requirements in an AFI or not fully meeting the spirit and intent of a directive as well. All right, what is the Commander's Inspection Management Board? It's a quarterly meeting that provides an opportunity for commanders to report on their unit's status of compliance, training, readiness, and their current priorities. Group commanders roll up their squadron commander's data and reports to the wing commander and present them at this meeting. And our focus as the IG now in this meeting is what improvement we've made and what lies ahead that we still need to address still. Here's an example of what's briefed, the quarterly wing CIMB. Each group and squadron should have a slide comparable to this, to inform their commanders on how they are or aren't meeting the 4 MGAs. And areas that they might need some assistance in, might help get some. And then this is what the wing commander's dashboard looks like that's held monthly. Yours may look differently depending on what your squadron tracks. However, your data will likely roll up into the wing commander's dashboard and then be reflected on this slide.
When you all are looking at that in terms of what am I going to measure, right? Because there's that old saying, you get what you measure, right? We've all been in those organizations or those units where the commander or the supervisor says, I really want to make sure we're doing this. And so then we come up with a metric, and then invariably that metric is going to go up or down depending on the commander's intent. So you need to spend some time. And again, those things that you're measuring should come back to the regulatory guidance and come back to the 1-2 and what your commander's responsibilities should be. If they're not, then you need to really be asking yourself, why are we measuring this particular metric? And maybe it's a sub or a contributing factor to some other thing, or maybe it's a one-off that you're just trying to dial in on for a little bit that's related to one of those areas. But you don't just accept what is being put forth in terms of your inspection program and your self-assessment, but think about, why is it that we're looking at this data? Is it providing information to us that we can make decisions with the data? Thanks, Chad.
Yes, sir. And just like the Colonel said, that's actually a living document also. And the reason brought it up is because some of you all may not actually attend the monthly CIMBs. And Colonel Priest, he'll look at this data every month, and sometimes things will be removed whenever it's no longer an issue, or as things pop up, that need attention, we'll modify the slide to, reflect those. So things that you might up-channel to your group commanders, and the group commanders might up-channel to him, will be reflected and tracked on there to try to get some results. What's the commander's inspection report? This is the report the wing commander provides the Air Mobility Command commander, the NGB IG, and the tag outlining the wing's achievements and areas that actually need improvement. And this is a great tool to request assistance from the AMC and the IG, or the NGB, excuse me. And it's kind of similar to the way that you all use squadron and group CIMBs and dashboard to get assistance from group commanders and the wing commander. And the Wing IG also conducts unit inspections. These were formerly known as vertical inspections. And this simply amounts to each squadron receiving a deep dive inspection from the Wing IG office once every 5 years, similar to what the AMC IG does during a capstone. And the Wing IG office also conducts program inspections, formerly known as horizontal inspections. Takeaways here are IG office usually conducts 2 or 3 of these a year. And a couple examples of them are like the Unit Safety Rep program or Wing Fitness program. These are all programs that each squadron implements, but it's a wing-wide program. Here's the current wing calendar, and it's briefed during each dashboard meeting. This summarizes what a typical year looks like for us. And with the exception of no-notice inspections, every exercise and inspection is listed on this calendar. So it's pretty much an open book test. Lastly, on the inspection portion, it's what can we do for you all? I mean, we're an agency that wants to provide service to you all and help you all with your USAPs. Just like the Colonel said, I mean, we're very approachable, and I hope you all do reach out to us, you know, whenever you need assistance with your USAP. Now we'll move on to the Lengths Resolution Program. Here are the 5 main points that we're going to touch on today. The program itself, who may file a complaint, how we manage them, reprisal and restriction, and your all's responsibilities upon assumption of command. DAFI 90-301 governs the Air Force Complaints Resolution Program, and the IG has delegated that, enforcing that down to all the Air Force IGs across the Air Force. IGs are independent, fair, impartial, and just focus on facts, you know, that we receive. And we're also outside of everybody's chain of command because we do report directly to the wing commander. And then if there's any complaints against the IG or the wing commander, then those are just referred to the state IG or another authority, just to maintain that objectivity, you know, if somebody has an issue with one of us. In order to process complaints and conduct investigations, the IG office does have unrestricted access to all Air Force records. Of course, we do have to have the right security clearance and a need to know. And because we have access to all this information and we do receive complaints, we function as the eyes and ears to the wing commander. So it's our duty to actually report to him any negative trends or conduct, or things that affect mission readiness. And then finally, since we're responsible for the Air Force's complaint resolutions program, our goal is to take complaints that we receive and try to get them resolved, because we want the airmen focused on the mission that you all have for them and not focused on the issues or concerns that they've got. We can essentially take a complaint from anybody. However, not all assistance we provide, is an investigation. There's other things as well. And then also discrimination, sexual harassment, and conditions of employment. Those will be referred to an agency outside of the IG to help take care of those. Now I'd like to take some time to discuss how we handle complaints. First of all, it's a common misconception that, whenever we get a complaint, that we immediately launch an investigation and dive into it. And that's not exactly how it works. What we do is conduct a thorough complaint analysis and check out the facts and the evidence we have, and then we'll move forward using one of these 5 paths. We can transfer a complaint to the right IG. For example, if somebody was deployed, had an issue there, we'll transfer it to the deployed IG. We may simply assist with an issue. This is by far mostly what our office does. But somebody, let's say, needs some assistance correcting a personnel record, then we'll just provide the process to them on how to do that and make sure they're able to do that. And then we may refer an issue to command or another agency. For example, if somebody's got a question with how the fitness test is being administered or doesn't like it, we would refer that to the FSS commander to investigate. Then we also might dismiss a complaint if there's no credible evidence of wrongdoing, if it's already been investigated, or it is actually withdrawn from the complainant. And then finally, we may decide to investigate a matter if we can properly frame one or more allegations of wrongdoing and there's significant evidence, to warrant an investigation. But bottom line, if an assist to resolve a matter is not possible or practical, and we don't retain to investigate, we normally refer that to the commander at the next higher level where the complaint took place to try to get a resolution there. Something else, did you all know that you actually have a duty to report things like fraud, waste, and misconduct? Both AFI 1-1 and AFI 36-703 state that you have a duty to notify somebody in your chain of command or IG to get some attention towards that issue. You're encouraged to use your chain of command. However, the IG's here, and you can come straight to us if you want. And then also, there's other channels. There's a DoD hotline. You can go to the Secretary of the Air Force or the President if you want. However, normally when that happens, those are referred back to the local IG to investigate. If somebody decides to file a complaint, they should really do so in a timely manner. Although time limits do exist for certain types of complaints, sooner the better, because as time goes on, it might be harder to gather information and conduct interviews and do things that we might need to do to resolve an issue. They also have to cooperate with us. Once a complaint's made, we might have to get additional information from them. And if they refuse to provide that, it makes it really challenging to move forward. And sometimes, a complaint might have to be dismissed just because of that. It goes without saying that they must be truthful and can be punished under the UCMJ for making false official statements. A complainant may also withdraw a complaint at any time if they want. However, the IG can still move forward with the complaint if there's significant evidence of wrongdoing. And then finally, it's really important to know that we can't delay command or personnel actions. So if somebody's being processed for a discharge, the IG is still going to continue with the complaint investigation, but the discharge is going to have to previously scheduled. And the same thing with administrative actions. We'll process the complaint, but the action's going to continue on. The only person that can stop, one of those actions is the commander themselves. There are two types of complaints that the IG will always handle, and that's restriction and reprisal. Those will never be handed out to anybody to look into. We'll take care of that ourselves. And restriction is when someone prevents a military member from contacting or speaking to the IG or Congress. WIT members are actually also considered IG members whenever they're performing in their official capacity. But if your supervisor says that you can't talk to anybody outside of your chain of command, well, that's the IG and Congress, and that's not permitted. Reprisal is a form of retaliation when someone is punished for speaking to the IG or Congress. A textbook example of this would be like receiving an LOR for not using your chain of command and going to the IG. We're not in your chain of command, so that's obviously a form of reprisal. Another form of reprisal would be having an action taken against you because a supervisor thought you used the IG or Congress, but didn't. That's also a violation. But AFI 90-301 really outlines these in detail, but if you've got questions on any of that, please feel free just to reach out to us and we'll help you determine if it falls into one of those categories or not. And then lastly, it's imperative that every commander contacts the IG office if they're doing a command-directed investigation. It's required that we actually enter all of those into our ACTS database. And then it's also required that we enter in our ACTS database whether the investigation resulted in substantiated or non-substantiated findings. A substantiated finding can actually have a negative impact on a officer's career, whether an adverse action was taken or not. So it's really important that we get involved as soon as one's initiated. And that's everything that we have for you this morning. You know, every work center should have a copy of this on their bulletin boards so you know who we all are, and also the roles we play when we're here and our contact information. But really, a key takeaway here, I really want everybody to feel comfortable coming to us. Just like Colonel Switzer said, you know, we're not, it's rare that we have a black hat on. And, you know, in the 11 months that I've been in this position, by far, most of the things that I have done is, you know, worked on are assists. And I mean, sometimes, you know, young airmen, they just hit a brick wall and don't know where to go for assistance. I mean, a pay issue, just different things. So they'll come to us and we'll literally help them through the process. No harm, no foul against anybody at all. It's just literally helping airmen so they aren't, you know, bogged down with being concerned about their issue, and they can get back to helping you all, you know, meet your all's mission requirements. And we're here for you. We're here for everybody. I can't stress that enough. But anybody have any questions? Yes. Within 90 days of assumption of command, you have to receive that training.
Does this qualify for her?
Yeah, it does.
So a couple things there that we talked about towards the end, and I'll go back to the slide that Chad was talking about. We're talking about handling things at the lowest level, and he got into talking about restriction and reprisal. And one of the things you can do is, as officers, leaders, and then when you're in a command role, is make those resources available. So you do that through communicating to your airmen. You do that through making sure that you have like this document posted clearly in a variety of areas, because those little, would you call them optics, right? The things that you're talking about, the things that you do, demonstrate to your unit that this is a tool that they can use, and that avenue is available to them. As a commander, I probably referred a half dozen people to the IG office in order to help them resolve a situation that we weren't able to resolve, that maybe was independent of my authority as a commander or what we were able to do. And sometimes it just takes, like Chad was saying, a different set of eyes to look at something, and maybe they've seen something that we haven't had or haven't seen, and vice versa. And so by allowing people to go do that, because the last thing you want to do is portray or have an environment where people don't think they can go outside their chain of command. We don't want every single airman running to the wing commander or the IG office every time they're dissatisfied with something, but you've got folks within your formations that can help you manage that kind of thing. But the IG is definitely there to help out with that. So that's an area where you can kind of focus on as officers and as commanders, and making sure people understand, hey, this is available to you, and you know, we want you to use the IG office. And like Chad was saying, a lot of what they get, you know, maybe doesn't rise to the level of a formal complaint where we're doing some sort of inquiry or investigation. And then we'll talk about that piece for a little bit. So really, when something comes to you that maybe you know, somebody has a complaint, or they feel like they're being treated unfairly, or they're raising a concern, maybe there's a safety issue, you really need to take your time to sit there and listen to what it is they're saying and gather all the information. Don't jump right to the reaction phase, like, you know, and I found myself there a few times as a brand new commander, like, oh, I'm gonna fix this. And you didn't even have the whole picture, right? Again, this is an area where having somebody down there in the IG office, even as a commander, you can pick up the phone and talk to them, but what you should be doing is gathering as much of that as possible, referring to your regulatory guidance to see, okay, where does this issue fall? What are we supposed to do that? Is there a bylaw requirement here that I'm just not aware of? Do some analysis, you know, and then if you don't have a way ahead and how you should deal with it, then you can start reaching out to other folks. Be mindful of that. I think for many of us, being a new commander meant we had this big hammer we could swing. Well, that doesn't mean everybody's a nail, right? Like, so take some time to figure out what it is that's going on, and if you need that assistance, then you've got folks like the IG office that you can reach out to. Anybody else got any questions? Any parting shots?
No,
Okay.
thank you all very much for your time. And once again, I can't stress enough, I mean, we're here for you all, so use us, okay?
Yeah, so last iteration will be here in a few months, probably May or June, and that's going to be the center of that discussion and presentation is going to be on 360-degree feedback and receiving feedback as a leader and as a commander. And we're actually going to bring in a graduated commander who's since retired that does some coaching and stuff on the outside. So it will be a really good session for those of you that are listening online and those of you guys that showed up today. Be sure to tune in for that next one. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you for joining us today. For more information about the 130th Airlift Wing, you can find us online at www.130aw.ang.af.mil. If you have questions about this program or the 130th, you can contact us by email at 130.aw.public.affairs@us.af.mil.